My name is Daniel, and this is DC HVAC. And today I wanted to go over what I keep in my Veto Pro Pack and all the tools that I use on a daily basis for service calls, installs, repairs, whatever I have on my schedule. And my setup keeps me the most efficient as possible, making as few trips to the trucks as possible. So to get started, this is the tool bag itself. It's the Veto Pro Pack. I believe it's the TP XXL, and I've had it for about a year now. It comes with this strap for the shoulders, a strap to carry by, a spool for wire, a lot of pockets on both the sides, the front, the middle, in between, and there's a pretty large pocket here towards the back. And I've used this bag now for about a year. It was sent to me by one of Mikey Pipe's subscribers, and after a year I've been pretty happy with it, and I'm pretty settled in with what I have to use on a daily basis. There's a few things that are thrown in here, like a nipple, a male adapter, some liquid tie connections, just stuff that has been thrown in here from jobs, a blade for a multi-tool. But for the most part, this is the way that it stays set up, and I'll start out just with my electrical meter. I keep that right in the front, easy to grab. It's a Klein, and I do get a lot of hate on my YouTube comments by people who are opposed to this meter. They think that it's cheap and unreliable. Some things I do understand, like when it comes to reading microfarads, it is slow to respond. Even reading some voltages, it's slow to respond. But it has everything here that you would need, and for me it's been super reliable. There's an attachment here where you can throw a magnet on, and then you can magnetize it onto a unit or wherever you might need to connect it to. The leads that I have on it are different than what Klein provides. They both came with alligator clips. Now I've lost the alligator clip for the black lead, and my temperature probe has completely been torn to shreds just from using it so much. But I've had this meter since I graduated from school for HVAC, so that's over 4 years now that I've been using this exact meter without any issues. And I believe I've changed the battery on it a total of 1 time. And if I recall, it takes AAA batteries. Yeah, 3 AAA batteries. And I'll show you what the meter actually does. So I'm going to start with the meter at off. Now it has this dial, which has a really nice, like a very responsive click to it every time you go and select through the settings, as well as an amperage clamp. Now I tend to use the amperage clamp more to hang the meter so I can take my readings rather than actually using amperage, but I do take amperage often. But on the meter itself, you have your dial, and you could go from your voltage. Now this will read an AC or DC volts, and it does have a digital light up display. Now to change through the option in whatever menu you've selected, you just press the select button and it'll bring you, now it's doing DC, while before it was doing AC. You could go for your amperage. Now this is a range of 40 to 400 amps, AC only. I'm not reading DC amperage, so that doesn't matter to me. I know some people are reading DC amps. A lot of the mini splits you need DC amps, but this is what works for me. And again, amperage, you would be using this amp clip. Now, there's a more specific amperage section which is reading more minute details. You could see in here you have it to the 100th place on the decimal point, whereas this you have it to the thousandths, but this is only accurate up to 4 amps. You have your ohms, your continuity, so if I touch my leads together here while on ohms, it'll read continuity, little to no resistance. and that's where you would also go through for all your ohm readings, but your microfarads, your nanofarads for your capacitors. You can read microamps as well, so for flame sensors, which would be DC volts. And in the volt section, you also can read millivolts, and that will automatically select. So things like thermocouples and thermopiles, I have no issue with. This is your frequency. I have yet to need to use this, but it's there. And you also have your temperature, your Fahrenheit or your Celsius. I'm in America where we use the normal system. And for that, that's when you would hook up the temperature probe that I pulled out before that's ripped up to shreds. So that's the Klein CL320, that's the model number of the meter. I am thinking about upgrading to something with more range. I don't need it, but I've had this meter for so long, I just kind of have a desire to buy a new one. But I'm going to set this off to the side and bring you to my next item, which would be just a simple Bosch drill bit case. Now inside of here I have a range of drill bits, just what I use frequently, what's convenient. For the most part, this is just what came with it. I do use this drill bit for tapping holes for the mollies, for thermostats, sheetrock screws, and then I have this very aggressive step bit, which is great for drilling out holes to run wire through, or really holes through anything. We'll drill holes through wood and run wire through that, or we can make the holes in units. Instead of having 3/4, you could have a 1-inch for your bigger whips. But that's it for that section. And in this front pocket, I'll throw random things like scratchy paper for cleaning pipe. I have a hose cap here with an O-ring to seal like a leaky boiler drain, as well as just some garbage mini split 5/16 Schrader caps, as well as 1/4 inch, which these aren't garbage, these are new and they have the O-ring built in them because that's your first prevention against leaks. I keep a 3/4 to 1-inch adapter, or 1/2 inch to 3/4 adapter. So we use these 1/2 inch liquid tight connectors, but a lot of manufacturers have the 3/4. You could slip this over the hole, pop your connector through, and make it nice and tight, and it'll be completely liquid tight, it'll be nice and secure, and you don't have to worry about drilling a second hole or upgrading to the bigger size of liquid tight. I keep my backup knife. I use a smaller knife that I keep on my pocket daily, but this one's nice. It's the Milwaukee Fastback, and the blade comes out super easy. Just push the button, pull it right out, push the button to put the new one in. Another benefit to this as well is it does have the blade holder, which I think holds 4 extra blades. So you always could have good blades for if you're in a tight spot, you don't want to run out to the truck and change them. I keep this Klein Tools thermostat screwdriver, and I absolutely love this thermostat screwdriver. Now this handle portion extends. I'm not exactly sure why. I've never found a practical use for that, but it is nice to be able to hold onto it tightly and twist it without losing grip in the other hand. And you can extend the head by flipping over the neck. And inside of that you have a Schrader bit to take out Schrader cores. That doesn't come in handy too often unless you're doing like a new install, there's no refrigerant in the lines, but I do use it somewhat. The more important part is the little thermostat flathead, as well as the Phillips for a lot of the control boards that we work on a daily basis. You get a little bit more grip if you use the Phillips when it has the Phillip screw there, and you don't have to worry about stripping it out with using the flathead. Another thing I keep in the main area is this Milwaukee level. I did recently switch over to this level, but it has amazingly strong magnets, and it'll stick to anything, no problem. The only thing I don't like about the magnets is you can't always trust that edge if you're putting it down, because you could have some metal shavings on the magnet that cause it to pitch. But otherwise, the level is really, really nice. It's really solid. It's really lightweight as well. Prior to that, I was using a similar level. I forget the brand, but it didn't have bubbles that were as visible as these are. This has a nice clear viewing area, and having the yellow behind it makes it much easier to view. Still on that main area, and for a while we will be, I have an assortment of Nipex Cobra pliers. These are essentially glorified channel locks, and I keep a few different sizes here. I believe I have a 16-inch here, a 10-inch, and I believe this is a 4-inch. Maybe it's a 6. But originally I had bought a pack of these pliers, and the link to the pack is in my Amazon description. The link to all of these tools is in that description. But I had upgraded the smallest ones for an even smaller pair. I find these a lot more convenient when you're in a tight corner trying to take off the caps for your Schrader cores, or really doing anything in a tight spot. It's nice to have these really tiny ones here. But I absolutely love these. They have really, really, really good grip, and the adjustability is super, super fine with the amount of teeth that you have in here. So they're great for any possible size you could think of. And I enjoy using these better than using standard pipe wrenches when I'm doing smaller gas piping work like 1/2 inch or 3/4. In here I also have a screwdriver that I hardly use. It's nice to have it as a backup, but it does have the same thermostat flathead that is in the Klein, and it has a Phillips #1 tip on it. But the reason that I got this is because of this hook right in here. If the camera is able to focus in on it, it's great to stick through holes to be able to pull thermostat wire through the wall when we run new wire. That's the sole reason that I got this, and every time that I've used it for that purpose, it's always been great, and it's always worked. There is another head in here. I'm not sure what this does. I don't know if anyone in the comments knows what this does, but it's there for some reason. But it's a great screwdriver. It gets annoying because I'll tuck it in the sides sometimes and I'll mistake it for a marker, but it is what it is. It's nice to have a backup screwdriver. Here I have my Hilmore ratcheting tubing bender. For a while I was using just a regular tubing cutter, not tubing bender. For a while I was using a regular rigid tubing cutter with no ratcheting, and it's hard on my wrist, and it's like a pain to have to whittle it back and forth to cut the pipe. So I had purchased a cheap one on Amazon, and it just fell into pieces. The jaw wouldn't line up and it wouldn't close. But this is really, really nice. You have this lever right down here. You can hit it with your thumb and you open it up. And cutting pipe is just as simple as ratcheting this. And it's got a razor sharp jaw to it. It cuts through everything no problem. You could use it for PEX, for PVC, and it goes all the way up to 1 5/8 inches, so just over 1.5 inches. All I'm cutting with it is 3/4, but it's nice to know they could do a little bit more. These needle nose are made by Bosch, and I do like them a lot, surprisingly. They were on the cheaper end, and I had used Milwaukee's needle nose, Klein's, and channel locks. The larger grip that these have, I like a lot, and I also like not having the spring back feature on it. I like to just use my hands to open and close. I find that I'm able to get a really good grip on really, really, really tiny objects with this, as opposed to other needle nose where you don't get the best grip, you'll strip out, and the handles aren't super comfortable, or when you put a lot of pressure, it puts a lot of pressure on the palm of your hand and it gets uncomfortable. But these are nice. The cutters on them aren't spectacular, they don't get the widest, but they work. I don't really use them for cutting that often or stripping wire because I have dedicated wire strippers, which for those I have the Hurricanes. These were advertised to me by Amazon, and I don't know if they're a big tool brand because I had never heard of them prior, but I had been using Milwaukee needle nose and wire strippers, where I still use their side cutters, and I think these are spectacular. I think they work great. I like them a lot. I think they're a very nice size, but their wire strippers would never strip wire. They would get very, very dull over time, and these have very deep grooves to grab that wire, where there's actually a little bit extra room for them to dull and it to be able to close a little bit more. And you also have the benefit of, in the handle, you can crimp on spade connectors in a pinch. I don't usually ever do that because I have a dedicated crimper in the van if I'm going to be crimping wire, but that's nice to have. As well as it has a really, really, really sharp cutter built in, as well as some really grippy needle nose tips. If they were thinner, like the tips of the Bosch needle nose, then that's all that I would use. But because they're thicker, they don't always work in every situation, which is why I keep the Bosch in the bag. Here is another Knipex tool that I absolutely love. And this was just given to me by Mike, because Mike was like, I don't use this, I don't see any reason to have it. I use this more than the needle nose, more than the wire cutters. I use this all the time. I'm going to do a close-up video on this to show you why these come in handy so much. So these are those Knipex. I don't know exactly what they call them, but the model number on them is 8201200. The same adjustability, where you push a button. There are not as many splines and not as fine splines for adjustment as with the Cobra pliers, but they're still very adjustable. Now, the main reason that I use these, and if you look close, I'm hoping the camera could see it, is it has little divots in it, almost like an octagon, like a stop sign, and these are amazing for taking out condenser fan motor nuts. You just put it on and you spin it. It'll work for 5/16 or 1/4 inch head screws. They're great. So I use these all the time for things like that. Now, in areas where maybe I don't have the room to get the Knipex pliers on because of the bend on the handle with the jaw, these come in handy because I could do the same thing with having a straight arm. So I like these a lot, and every time I go to maybe reorganize my bag, I always think about keeping these out, but I use these too much to actually get rid of them, and I would never think that this is something that I could and would continue to use on a daily basis. Now, next to that, I keep my crescent wrenches. These are just some 8-inch crescent wrenches. I picked the black ones just because I like the way the black looked, but most people use the chrome steel ones with the rubber grip. It would be nice to have that rubber grip, but these also have held up really well in like in the rain and around the acidic chemicals that we use to clean coils. They don't rust really at all, so it's nice to have that. They do have some really smooth adjusting jaws when you roll that little wheel on the bottom, and they haven't gotten stuck on me or been a pain at all to use. They also open up fairly wide. I don't know that that's wider than other like competitors, but I'm really happy with these, and I don't plan on getting rid of them or replacing them anytime soon. Here is a fairly new tool that I've been using that I absolutely love. This is the Klein, they call it a 7-in-1. And this head right here comes off, and you have 7 different sizes available to use. So if you pull off the first head that I have on here, this is your standard 1/4 inch 5/16 that you use for every single unit. But if you pull off these larger heads, you have a 11/32 and a 3/8 and 7/16 with 1/2 inch. These two sizes are what you need for every single blower motor or condenser fan motor that I've seen in light commercial and residential applications. I use this all the time, but the benefit of having this head pull off is that you could slip it right onto your 1/4 inch driver on your impact gun. So this is something that I use all the time. I used it today, and it's super convenient to have. Being able to just pull out a tool, flip the head, rather than open up a tool compartment with multiple different sizes and having stuff loose thrown around everywhere. This is great. I've been a big fan of Klein screwdrivers since I've used tools, just because I like the way the handle feels, and I like the amount of products they make, which brings me to their 14-in-1 screwdriver that the head also does come off of this one, but the more important part about that is that it's fully adjustable. So if you need to get into a tight space, you could put it as low as possible. If you need a little bit more torque and force on that screw without risking slipping, but you could extend to the next size up if you wanted that, next one up if you wanted that. I believe it goes one more if you want that, but it does get a little bit flimsy once you pull it out that far. The major benefit, though, to having this is this has every head that I use on a daily basis. Whether it's flathead for the lugs on a contactor for your electrical connections, or a smaller flathead for any other flathead that you're using, maybe on a switch, on an outlet cover. It goes all the way down to a Phillips number 1 for your Phillips heads, a Phillips number 2 for the standard Phillips, that's on everything else, and it goes to all of your Torx bits as well. Now the sizes on the Torx, I'm not 100% sure. I just pulled out a T20, I see a T25 and a T10. Now there's some sizes in between that. The T10 was the largest, T25 was T25 was the largest, T10 was the smallest. But I think it's super convenient to be able to have all of these heads available to you just with pulling the handle. And it does make the tool a little bit heavier, but I'm not using it 24/7. I don't find it to be that much of a pain. But I like to use it a lot. So next tool that I have is my Milwaukee sheet metal knife. I don't always just use this for sheet metal. I'll use it for things like band iron or cutting zip ties, but this one I like a lot. I don't know why. It's comfortable to hold it. I like where the little divots are to put your finger in. I have noticed that it has become pretty dull fairly quickly compared to the Weiss that I have in my Malco bag, but it's a nice one to have. You can adjust the tightness on it, and I'm sure I could sharpen it if I wanted to get around to it. But this is nice to just have in the bag for little things that I might need to cut, rather than doing an install, where in most cases I'll bring my sheet metal bag, which has all my Malco, my Weiss tools for cutting and bending sheet metal. I keep a little rechargeable electric lighter. It's got like an arc to it, rather than having to constantly throw out cheap disposable pick lighters or barbecue lighters. This is really nice for lighting pilots, and even if I can't get it into the pilot light, I could light a piece of paper and stick that piece of paper into the pilot light. So this works out really well. I like having that. In here I keep my Milwaukee deburring tool. I like to try to remember to deburr on every piece of pipe that I cut, more particularly in refrigerant, with hooking up your suction and discharge lines or the filter dryer, and before doing any flaring, I like to do a deburring. This was cheap. This is just the one I keep in the bag because it's the one that I have, and the blades on it are changeable, but I have yet to need to change the blade on this one. It's just a nice slim deburring tool. I don't think it really matters what brand of deburring tool you keep in your bag as long as you have one. Over on the side, I have a Klein Tools ET10 temperature sensor, temperature probe. Now, the ends here are magnetic, so if I were to drill a hole in ductwork and slip this on there, it'll stick to it if it's steel ductwork. And it has this nice cover here that will also like force air to go through it. So resting it on top of the condenser fan to get the discharge temperature on your condensers is nice, or just putting it at a supply register to get your supply air, or your return register for your return air. It works out really nice. It's just a basic temperature sensor. Next to that is my digital psychrometer by Fieldpiece. I was previously using UEI, and for functionality, I definitely like the UEI better. It's a much faster response time, a much larger display. But this one's definitely more durable. It has a lot slimmer design. It'll fit in my shirt pocket in my pen section for our uniforms. But the display on this, it is also a pain. You have to press and hold for 3 seconds to use it. But you can see, hopefully, the display is very tiny. But it will give you your wet bulb, your dry bulb, your dew point, your percent humidity, and your temperature. So it's nice to have that when we need that. Oftentimes there's charging charts on the condenser panels that require you to take some of those readings. Now up here there's some basic things. 3 amp Busman fuses for the control boards on air handlers and furnaces. These are, got quite a few of these just because of how often we see them. Mini split adapters. 2 of these are made by Yellow Jacket. It's the standard mini split R410A adapter, 1/4 inch to 5/16. These 2 are called Easy Turn anti-blowback fittings. Now, the downside on having these is the 1/4 inch connection on the anti-blowback does not have a Schrader cord, so you have to be connected to your hose in order to hook this up. Whereas the Yellow Jacket, you can hook this up and then connect to your hose because it has that Schrader port. But these are very beneficial in minimizing refrigerant loss, minimizing burning your fingers if, say, it's operating a heat pump operation and that pressure is really, really high. I do like these a lot, and they come in handy. Again, they both have downsides and positives. I tend to use these more now that I have them. I think they're much more enjoyable to use. They kind of make everything a little bit more simple. For the rest of my bag, I have some extra bits, like from that Klein 7-in-1 driver. But up here, I have some more important things. Now, every technician needs to have a service wrench, and what I have here are the Allen sizes that you connect to your service wrench to open up your king valves, your service valves, when you're closing or opening off your condensing unit to release the charge into the line set or to pump the charge down. I have this one because I need it for a lot of the newer systems that make it so that the older style doesn't actually fit. So this one's made by Uniweld. The standard one I have here is made by Yellow Jacket. Again, links to everything in my description. But I do prefer Yellow Jackets more, but I do have to use this one now on the newer systems where you don't have that deep extension in for your larger size Allen key. Now right here, I also keep my 3/8 impact adapter. So I slip this 1/4 inch drive onto my impact on, and I have a 3/8 adapter for sockets for anything I may be doing. Typically it's working on boilers, on the high efficiency boilers, doing a tear down so that I could do a full cleaning and maintenance on those. But that's nice to have. The one downside is that they snap all the time from the torque on the impact gun. But on this side pocket here, I keep 2 things. First one, I have a FLIR i7 thermal imaging camera. Now this is amazing. It does have quite a long boot up time, and it doesn't have the greatest battery life, just because it's so old. This is handed to me by Mike. It's a hand-me-down. Grateful to have it, but it just does your standard thermal imaging. Hopefully the camera can pick it up. If I put my hand right in front of it, you can see it reads the heat, and as it boots up, it'll give you a specific temperature as to what it's reading. When I do use this on, say, copper pipes for heating or for air conditioning, you do have to put black tape on the pipe because it can't read the shiny metal surface. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But I don't believe they make this anymore. I haven't been able to see it. So the link in my Amazon is to their newer model, which I'm sure is even better. Probably a lot lighter weight. On this side I also keep my gallo gun, my drain gun, which is used to blow out our 3/4, sometimes 1/2 inch PVC drain lines, and it takes your standard, I believe, 16-gram CO2 cartridges. The only thing that stinks about this is that I lost the O-ring in there, so as soon as I hook up my CO2 cartridge, I have limited amount of time to work with it. I gotta hook it up quick and then blast it. I should get a new O-ring in there, but haven't gotten around to it. This one's made by Diversitech. Their drain gun is the actual name of the product. I don't find that it's any better or worse than any of the ones that I've used. If anything, it may be worse because of how quick that O-ring disappeared. But it works, it gets the job done. I don't use it all that often, but when I do, I have it here. On this side clip, I keep electrical tape and I keep Teflon tape. Because we do work on so many boilers, I like to put Teflon tape on there so I don't have to run back to the van and grab it. In this upper pocket, I do change what I keep in here. Right now there is some band iron for capacitors. When the old capacitor mount doesn't fit the new capacitor. And even though I have that nice lighter, I do keep this lighter here as a backup. It's an old garbage Bic lighter. And of course I removed that little safety so it's easy to strike. But I usually keep pipe doctor stickers in here, but they fell on the ground for marking the boilers after we work on them with the phone numbers so that we get repeat service with customers. Here, now, this product I do have complaints on. This is made by Testo, and it's their non-contact voltage tester, and it reads up to 1,000 volts, and I think as low as 50 volts, and that's AC voltage. Now, I've replaced the batteries on this a few times. It does have an auto cutoff, but I find that it takes a while for that to happen. The flashlight on here is garbage, it's a gimmick, hardly lights anything up. And I have actually found this to be unreliable recently, so I'm going to be switching this over, probably to a Klein or a Fluke. The other day, I was testing it on wires for a blower motor, and it was reading voltage on the 24-volt wires. It wasn't reading voltage on the line voltage wires, the ones that would kill me, when I knew there was power there, and I confirmed with the voltmeter that there was power there. So I don't trust this anymore. I'm a little bit hesitant to use any non-contact voltmeter now, because that's a pretty serious flaw to have, not reading the line voltage, the 240 volts, but picking up on the low voltage, the control wiring. So I wouldn't say I recommend getting that tool, but right now it's in there. I keep a thicker Sharpie permanent marker and just a regular ballpoint pen for any forms I might need to have the customer fill out. On this side here, I have my smaller Klein. How many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in one. This does 1/4 inch 5/16, Phillips number 1, Phillips number 2, and the larger 3/16, or the smaller 3/16 flathead, and the larger 1/4 inch flathead. And it's nice to use in those tight spaces. It's stubby, so anywhere that you could get your fingers into, you could get your hand on the back of this to kind of give it a turn. On the other side, I keep my smaller tools. There are a couple extra pens in there because the customer, for some odd reason, just gave me a bunch of pens. But here's what I have in there. Pull that all out so I can show you. This is by Supco, I believe, Trade Fox. It is a furnace switch, flipper, puller inner. You put this on the unit and it pulls in that furnace door switch, so you don't have to put electrical tape over it or hold your thumb over it when you're testing it, because furnaces have that safety where if you have the door off and the system does not have power any longer. But this is versatile. You can use it in a lot of different positions, a lot of ways. Sometimes if it's not going to work on a particular furnace, I've been able to use like a screwdriver and actually being able to get it to work. But this is an absolutely amazing tool by Supco. Again, links to all of this are in my Amazon description. Here's a discontinued Milwaukee product, which is a shame, and I'm actually hesitant to use this at times now because I don't want to break it. I absolutely love this tool. So this is my Milwaukee right angle impact driver adapter. And I'm going to pull out the impact driver, which you keep on the back of the bag, to show you this. Now my impact, I always keep a smaller Malco 1/4 inch and 5/16 drill bit on, but the Milwaukee adapter goes right on like that, and you can hold it with this hand, hold it with the other, and it does your right angle for a hard to reach spot. Now you don't have to hold this with your hand. Typically I can like get a finger on it and manage to get it in place up against somewhere. Even if I can't do that, I could usually manage to get it in place to where I need it to be. But you could put any tip on it. Here's the 1/4 inch 5/16 by Malco that I just pulled off of it. And it spins with no problem. I absolutely love this. I love the small footprint that it takes up. The newer model has a handle on it and it's much larger. This is plastic, it's lightweight. The internals are metal, but I really like this tool. This is the 48-32-2390. And unfortunately I couldn't link this in my Amazon description, but I was able to find an almost identical knockoff, which has a much cheaper price range, and I'm hoping to test that one out as opposed to using this one to see how that one holds up. Because if so, I'd like to keep this one kind of set to the side because it's pretty cool that they don't make it anymore. Now the same goes with this Milwaukee Fastback knife. They actually don't make this knife anymore, so I'm hesitant to use it at times just because I want to keep it because I think it's so cool. On the side here as well, I keep this Hillmore adjustable flashlight, headlamp, whatever you want to call it. Very bright light. It has multiple brightness settings. I don't know if you can see it against the wall, but it has a hook here, so you can hook it on almost anything, especially in an attic. You can hook it on the wiring above you, whatever there might be. But it also has a magnetic base, which you can tuck your hook into, and it has full pivoting rotation on it. You can put it on any single angle. If you have it mounted on a wall, you can point it to where you are. If you have it mounted on a ceiling, you can point it to where you are. So I absolutely love this. I got this for free when I bought my tubing bender by Hillmore. It's standard micro USB charge, and the battery life on it is absolutely amazing. It's super durable, and I just absolutely love this. I'm running out of room on the table now, but over on this back side, or this side of it, I keep a Klein ratcheting 1/4 inch 5/16 driver. Similar to having that small stubby, it's really good for tight spots. This particularly is good because you have a thumb turn here where you can actually use your thumb if it's a really tight spot and you can't get that full range of movement on the handle itself. You can flip your direction for which way the ratchet is going to engage, and you can pull out your bit. Now it comes with a little bit holder, which has a number 1 Phillip, number 2 Phillip, 3/16 flat, 1/4 inch flat, and a 1/4 inch nut driver for smaller nut drivers on socket sets. But this is an amazing tool to have. It's super magnetic, so it grabs onto all the screws and everything with no problem. And this hole in the end is the perfect size to get any finger in. I mean, I could get my thumb through. I can get every finger through it, so it's not going to get caught. And it's just amazing. That gloss finish makes it really nice and smooth to use. Absolutely love that. More importantly here is where I keep a tackle box. Now, I use this tackle box to hold an array of things. I keep 1/4 inch screws in here, particularly for the ream units, because those screws are so small and they go missing all the time. I keep some female spade connectors for my electrical connections, some nuts, and I forget what you call these, studs. Some nuts and studs for the Ron McLean Ultra boiler, because we do perform maintenances and repairs on those often, and those studs tend to snap. Every maintenance kit comes with them, but I like to keep them here just in case. If I'm not doing a maintenance and they snap, I don't have them with me. I keep some smaller fuses for the Taco relays. I keep some Schrader cores, some hose clamps, Wago 221 lever connectors, 223 lever connectors, and some condensate pan treatment tablets. I believe these are made by New Calgon, and they have some chemicals in them that help to break down the sludge and keep the drains flowing nicely. So I keep that all in this little tackle box, which again, the link in my Amazon description. But it's nice and watertight, it's nice and compact. It has those multiple sides, and it has full customizability on what you want to have as far as the sizes of all your little segments. If you look right here, I have these little doors pulled out, but you can slip these in between and make smaller portions, larger portions to fit whatever you might want to fit in here, or give you larger sections to fit things. On the very back, this is typically where I keep my Milwaukee impact driver. That's the M12, the M12 fuel. One thing that is a pain about this that I'm actually going to fix right now, and I seem to have to fix every other day, is the clip here that would hook onto your belt or your tool bag or whatever always gets loose, and I'm always tightening it. I'll probably try putting in some Loctite, but it is annoying. It has multiple speeds on it, which is nice. It has 1, 2, 3, and drill, which I believe gradually goes up in speed. But the battery life is good. I only replace this battery maybe every couple of weeks, so it's nice to know that. I believe these are made by Weha, my standard and my metric Allen sets. Now, Allen wrenches are used for everything, whether it be a set screw on a motor or the flanges on a circulator that actually hold the head onto the body, but these are great for everything. Even the high efficiency boilers now are switching from using a Phillips screw to using an Allen screw. So I keep those in there. A big pile of zip ties, because we use zip ties for everything, for neatening up wiring, for labeling valves, keeping line sets put together. So I just have some standard, I believe they're 8-inch zip ties. Now, another thing that I have in here is actually a piece of the tool bag. Now, up until a few months ago, that piece in the tool bag sat in here like this, and I could stick wrenches and smaller tools and things in there. But I found that it got in the way, keeping my Bosch case for my bits and my Klein multimeter in there. So I slipped it out here just to keep it somewhere so I wouldn't lose it. And it ended up being the perfect thing to have there to keep my Allen wrenches standing up. So I slip those in there and they stay right there. They don't move at all. And I can slip these zip ties in the corner. I can slip my impact on right in the back, close that up. There's a little elastic strap here if you wanted to strap things on it. And that's everything that I keep in here. So for the bag itself, there's a few things that I like. I always hang the bag in the van on a shelf, and this hook comes in super handy for that. It's adjustable, but I don't really adjust the length on it. I just get it in there nice and secure and I hang it. It's got a nice handle that's really comfortable to carry. It's really thick so it doesn't dig into your hand. It also has a really nice strap, which is also rainproof. If you flip it on the other side, it doesn't get soaked. And that's really nice to have too, with some nice adjustability on the length. I tend to like to keep it up higher. Some people like to hang it down low, whatever it is. In the center of it, this is where you have a lot of customizability. This section right in here is Velcro, so you can put that piece that I had pulled out, and I believe you can get other pieces to keep it a little bit more organized. I just leave it empty because that's again where I keep my meter and my Bosch bit. But you got these nice pouches here on the side, which are great for anything. You could store pens, drill bits, small screwdrivers, anything small that you could think of, you could fit into there, and it's super nice to have it where it keeps it a little bit elevated above the rest of the tools, so you don't have to dig deep in there to grab it. There's some pouches here. I don't really use these ones just because of the size of them and the location of them, but I do use these. These are where I keep the needle nose and my wire cutters. And this again, same side, but I put my ratcheting tubing cutter in there. These pockets up front also are very nice. They Velcro to be a little bit more compact. And then there's a button right here. If, say, you're not using it or you want to have a little bit of a slimmer profile, you could pin that in and the bag takes up less space. These pockets on the side are nice. They're very deep, so that's where I keep the Milwaukee tin snips, just because they're sharp and keeps them nice and compact against the side. Same for this side. This is where I keep the channel locks. Nice slim compartment, and it's hard on either side of it, so the bag doesn't start to like bulge out. Another benefit too is this plastic layer on the bottom. Now it's only about an inch up, but the plastic does go pretty high, so that if you have this sitting in a deep puddle, the tools are going to stay dry for the most part. These where I keep my screwdrivers, some nice slim pockets that hold everything nice and securely. And again up top where I had my smaller pieces, and a larger pocket up top where I tend to just throw random screws, wire jumpers, and things like that. But it's nice to have just to throw things into. This is that pocket, and it's nice to have that clear area. This is where I keep those stickers. It's a zipper pocket, and when you have it flipped up like this, it's nice and accessible. When you have it closed down, you don't have to worry about anything spilling when you're going up and down because you have that zipper there. The sides right here, this is where I kept that FLIR thermal imaging camera, nice and secure. Again, it's hard on this side. There's a little pouch right here, and there's some slimmer pockets here. So you could really put anything that you could think of in here. You can find a space to put any tool. These are very large. You can see I could put my whole fist in here. I tend to keep smaller tools in there, but again, you have those on both sides. It's the same setup on both, and it's just very nice to have that. And for that back side, where I had my drill, my Allen wrenches, it's normally just a very big pocket, but I put that piece in here, that Velcro piece, just to hold everything a little bit more secure, and it fit in there perfectly. So that's about everything. That's all the tools that I keep in the bag. Now, depending on certain jobs that I go on, I may throw another tool in there before I go up into an attic or before I go into a basement. But for the most part, this is everything that I use on a daily basis. Some things more than others, but it's nice to have all of these smaller tools available to me at my side at every single job. Hopefully you enjoyed watching the video. I wanted to get a tool bag video out for a while. There's a lot of videos out there that I'm not a huge fan of. Because HVAC tool bags are so particular to what everybody is doing, I'm doing a lot of residential work and light commercial work, very rarely in New York, where we have oil equipment, which I don't work on, but we have furnaces, we have steam heat for natural gas, for oil as well, hydronic heat, radiant in-floor heating, heat pumps, air conditioners. So there's a vast array of equipment that I have to work on a daily basis, water heaters as well. And having all of these tools are what I need on a daily basis to get everything done. But hopefully you enjoyed watching. Like the video if you liked it. Comment any advice or criticisms or feedback, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.